All right. Well, we have a special treat today. Today is kind of the convergence of a number of different things. Number one, we regularly do something called Can I Get a Witness during the summer. We just take a number of weeks where we just have people share their testimonies. A lot of times we do it interview style, or last week we did a panel discussion, things like that. But we also do something called Report from the Field, where we share what's going on with the missionaries that we support. We also, in this church, have a long history of sending some of our own out into ministry and into the mission field and all of that. And today is kind of a convergence of all of those different things. So we're continuing our Can I Get a Witness series, and we have a special treat. It's not going to be an interview today. We're going to have Laura Stanley come up, and she is going to share her testimony, and I hope talk some about the ministry that you're doing in the Dominican Republic. They have been there for a few years, and we have supported them. But Laura Stanley is actually homegrown, one of our own, and so she's going to come and share the story of how she ended up where she is today, and hopefully you'll get to know her a little bit better, their ministry a little bit better, and so Laura, come on up.
I will use this. That sounds great. Okay. Well, so when Abby asked me to continue this series of Can I Get a Witness, I was just excited to use it as an opportunity to share stories, mostly for the purpose of saying thank you. Because I want to say a huge thank you to the faithfulness of God for being with me in every step along the way, but also to God for planting me in a community that was just so consistent and lush and good. So specifically at the beginning, I'm going to focus in on kind of the base that my parents created for me and that this church was. As is still the case now, I feel like Waite Park, when I was a kid, just lived the lifestyle of global missions. Like, they were in Minnesota and they were very aware and active in global missions. And so that's the bed that that's where I grew up in. The truth is, when I was a kid, I wasn't really paying that much attention. I was just like going where I was supposed to go, and I was doing what I was supposed to do. And so I had a grand plan for my life. This was the plan. I was going to do a good job in high school, and I was going to go to college, and then I was going to be a really nice guy, period, the end. And that is the whole plan. And I don't know, that happened, and it was great. And then I felt like after that, all of the rest of it was just adventure, because I had no idea what was going to happen, and anything was a viable option. And so, but then, of course, as I take that adventure, I see very much where the first 18 years of my life gave me strength and direction that I wasn't paying attention to at the time, but then looked back. I remember my mom and I were talking about like living in the Dominican Republic, and I was just like, well, but I kind of feel like you set me up for this, because like I learned about and was with missionaries my entire life, and we traveled around the world, and I guess I just thought this was a really normal thing to do because I'd seen other people do it so much. So anyway, I will tell a more chronological story of how I went from Waite Park to then moving my family to the Dominican Republic, to a school called Doulos Discovery School. So, like I said, I was born to my parents, Terry and Leah Sly. I was the first. 3 more children joined later. We went to this church our entire lives. And when I was really little, I have a vibrant memory of Missions Emphasis Week. Can I get a witness? Are you ready? It was like every single day, every evening, everybody would come to church, and we would be visited by either probably 2 or 3 families, like all at the same time, and we would get to hear their stories. And as a kid, what I really remember is walking in the door and there just being like an alive energy of vibrancy and a colorfulness and so many hugs and so many smiles and everybody was so excited to actually get to see the missionaries that they knew and prayed for daily and talked about all the time, but we actually got to see them in person and hear what God was really doing in their lives and like in their friends' lives far, far away. And we had a lot of connections to missionaries in Sierra Leone at the time, so whenever anybody from Sierra Leone was here, everybody got out their tie-dyed, embroidered shirts, and they wore them proudly. And I don't know if they wore them anywhere else, but man, if you had one of those shirts at church, you were so cool. So anyway, I remember like you got to wear your cool clothes and everybody was really excited, giving lots of hugs. But I also remember like the rules for music were a little bit different. Like you could play more drums and you could be a little louder and you could like move your body a little bit more. And ask my face how I felt about that. Love that. So anyway, that was Missions Emphasis Week. There was an emphasis, my people. Another memory of like a little bit older in high school that was very core and transformative for me was when in high school there were hundreds and eventually thousands of people who moved from Sudan to the Minneapolis area. And Waite Park opened up their doors. I remember Becky Hamoud like kind of rallying the school and the church to support that influx of people, help them acclimate to a much colder climate and a very different culture. And that was kind of my first experience trying to communicate with people with whom I had no common language or even like common ground for how to live life. Like they were so different than me. So they started to worship here in the afternoons, and we would do English classes in the afternoons. And it was uncomfortable. And it was so confusing, and it was so unclear, and it was ever-changing. I felt like every week I didn't really know what was going to happen. And as a teenager with very little actual intercultural experience, like especially like outside of English and Spanish, it was just really new. But it was also really generous and really good. And I just saw something brand new. And I probably wasn't paying as close attention then as I should have been to how that was shaping me. But I started getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like it was normal to go into a situation not knowing what was going to happen, but trusting that God was going to be there in it, and if I was kind of paying attention, maybe I could get through it, and I would ask for help if I didn't know what to do. And I've now taught English as a second language in lots of different settings, and I still like walk into, when I do student-teacher or parent-teacher conferences, there's a little bit of like, there's going to be words that I don't know, and we're going to have to figure some things out, and I just got a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable. So those are some just pieces of the church where I learned along the way, and like things became normal that now like very much has governed how I live my life. I also thrived at youth camp and just like felt like that was a place that I learned how to worship God and in my home, my parents would invite missionaries over, and we would pray for missionaries very, very, very consistently. I think one of the biggest blessings as I look back was that foundation of prayer, of feeling connected to Christians all over the world. So that was the norm. I told you I met a really nice guy. I found him at Houghton College in Western New York, highly recommend. And I studied art and intercultural studies, and then got my teaching license at Hamlin while Tim was getting he was at seminary at Bethel. He was also on staff here during that time in a variety of capacities. And at the time, there was an Ethiopian church, which I think it's a different group of Ethiopians now, who are still, like, you guys now still have multiple churches worshiping in your church, which, by the way, I know is not normal, but is so good. I know that it's just so easy for the church to kind of have their box that they live in, and I just feel like your box is just ever expanding and moving, and good job on you. So thanks for that. But at the time when Tim was working here, there was an Ethiopian congregation, and we learned so much from him too and loved our interactions with that pastor. Okay, So I had told Tim early on in college, like, hey, I want to live in another country for a while. And I said 10 years. And he said, probably start with 1. And so we did move to the Dominican Republic for a 1-year commitment. We stayed for 3. This was before we had kids. We were at JCS, which is Jarabacoa Christian School. And we loved it. It was really hard because we were not good at asking for money yet. So we lived on very little money. But we didn't have kids, and it was fine. Like, we got by. And they were 3 of my favorite years of teaching. Even when I came back and taught in Minnesota, I just, kept on wanting what I had in that teaching situation. When we moved back to the United States, Tim did Young Life. And I did a lot of things with him. And Young Life is another one of the transformative areas where I feel like God, I wasn't necessarily paying attention, but I knew when it happened. As an artist, I had always connected more with God the Father, like the creator, the colorful, everything by design, fitting all the pieces together. Like, that was the God that really made sense to me. And Jesus was real, and I knew that he was a pivotal and crucial part of my salvation, but he also was a man from a long time ago, and I just saw, there was a disconnect. Young Life focuses on the centrality of Jesus as Lord, and I heard the story in so many different ways, and then told the story in so many different ways that I feel like Young Life just kind of helped me fall more deeply in love with Jesus, recognizing that we are an ever-changing story. Like, Jesus is with us, and that our lives get to keep on changing and evolving as we seek to be closer and closer to his will and his heart. And so Young Life was just really beautiful for me in that way of, as I explained my faith to high schoolers, that it became more and more real to me. So Tim's love for people of all ages, not just high schoolers, eventually led us to opening a church in Crossroads. We were a 4th campus of Crossroads campus in Hastings, and it became like the second church that I could call mine. And our kids grew up in a church that was so full of love for them and full of people of all ages that loved them very, very much. Eventually, there was always that string attaching us back to the Dominican Republic. Like, we were here and fully living, and we were always paying attention to what was going on in the DR. And so after about, I guess we were here for 12 years. We were in Minnesota for 12 years. We eventually were like, I think we should think about going back to the Dominican Republic. And so 3 years ago, we moved back to the same town, but to a different school called Doulos Discovery School. The school is 24 years old. We had been watching it for about 15, and we're just so impressed with its mission, its commitment to this diverse socioeconomic education for kids in Jarabacoa. So I moved back as a 3rd grade teacher, which has been so much fun. I get to focus on teaching. I teach all the classes that are in English, which is math, English, science, social emotional learning, Bible. English, did I say that? Anyway, but I focus the first semester on oceans, and I focus the whole second semester on world cultures. As an expeditionary learning school, every class has a main focus for each semester. And those have been so much fun for me because I love God the Creator making this ocean full of creative things that all work together somehow. And then, Jesus' mandate to go and tell all the people of the world, go tell everybody about me. I get to really focus on that second semester. Tim moved down to Doulos thinking he was going to do one thing, and a year and a half later became the director of the school. But guess what? God had prepared him so miraculously for that job through Young Life and organizing huge events and lots of volunteers and a big budget, to then all of the building project of building the Hastings campus. Doulos Discovery School has outgrown its space. And so almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we bought the side of a mountain so that we can build a new campus. And I am very focused on like what is happening in my classroom, and Tim is doing all sorts of things that are like, yes, right here, right now, but also this vision of building this new campus. So we would love to tell you all about the new campus. Maybe after service we can talk more about that. But that is our vision, that we would like to move out there in a few years and double our class sizes. But there's obviously lots of logistics in going into all of that. So sometimes, when I'm in the DR, doubts can creep in, and they have crept in, of like, I wonder if our Minnesota friends miss us. Or like, I wonder what we're missing by not living in Minnesota. Or I wonder what people think about this choice that we made to move our whole family away from our family and the community that they were in for a long time. I wonder what friendship will look like years from now, because we don't know if we're going to live in the Dominican Republic forever. We anticipate being there for a while, and that's where like our community energies are going. But what will friendship look like? Anyway, by God's good grace, my mind can then fill with the images that I have filed away from when I was a kid of missionary families coming back here and being received by people who I knew did not forget them or judge them or think that they were crazy. We thought they were a little crazy, but only like in a good way. And it's really okay if you think we're a little bit good crazy, because yes, we are. But I watched missionaries received by friends who were not lying when they said that they read their letters and they prayed for them regularly and they missed them and they were proud of them. And those pictures come to mind when I think, like, when I have those doubts creep in. So anyway, so now you might wonder why we chose Doulos. Like I said, we've been watching it for a while, but here's the mission of Doulos: educating and equipping servant leaders through Christian discipleship and expeditionary learning to impact the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic historically has just really poor education. For years, until about 10 years ago, they spent 2% of their government GDP, is that right, on education. For comparison's sake, in America, it's about 6%. And so about 10 years ago, they upped it to 4%, which is great, but all of that money went into building buildings, not educating teachers or creating good curriculum. So now they have longer days and bigger buildings, but very ill-equipped teachers. And of course, generations of, so far, just undereducated people. So the government has their heart in the right place. They are putting lots more money into education. They do see that kids need education, but still about 90% of kids go to primary school. But 35% of girls graduate from high school, and 23% of boys graduate from high school. Now, there's lots of factors in that. A lot of parents will put pressure on their kids to help provide for the family. So as soon as they have a skill, they want them to use that skill. And so a lot of parents are pulling their kids out early. The Dominican Republic also has a really high rate of teen pregnancy. About 1 in 4 girls will experience teen pregnancy and drop out of school typically and not start again. And so Doulos is planted in this spot of needing to model a different kind of education and knowing that we have to take care of the whole family in order to do that. So when we bring kids into the school, we want to make sure that the parents are all in and understand, like, we need all the parents and all the neighbors and all the grandparents to tell this child they are going to graduate. And we do a lot of activities to incorporate that, but we have a lot of parent meetings. So we have lots of, just our staff has many opportunities to take care of the whole family. And I think specifically of one of my students this year, when the year started, the counseling department explained, like, hey, this family has been through a lot and we've been with them in it, And we have seen huge growth, and they are doing so much better. But there are times when communication with family is tricky. And so, by the time she was in 3rd grade, she had already been at Doulos for 5 years, and the counseling department knew her very, very well and supported me really well in that, even to the point of at one point in the year when communication was getting tricky. We had a meeting, and one of our therapists, Susanna, was like, Mom, I think you should start seeing that therapist that was so great last year. And she did. And things got so much better. And I was just so thankful for this long-term, truly trusting, supportive relationship that there was between those two ladies, that Susanna could say, like, hey, I want you to reach out for help. And that Mom said, yes, I want to do that. And she was such a fun student to have all year. And yeah, when Mom was healthy, she was great. And so to be in a school that just brings her back to that spot of health so that she can be what she needs to be for her mom was just really fantastic. What else did I want to share? I think I just want to share some pictures to kind of give you, just to show my joy a little bit in what I'm doing. So this is a picture of us on vacation. You're welcome. That's a few hours from our house. It's a hike. We may or may not have, so at this spot, the water hits the side of the cliff and shoots like mist 30 feet in the air, and it'll blow your hat off. And ask me if it will blow your phone out of your pocket of your dress. Yes, it will. There was no damage. Anyway, it was a really fun vacation. What else do we have in this slide deck? Okay, so this is our expedition after oceans. These are my students. My assistant, Rob, he is with kids all day. And so that's another level of support that my students have, that no matter if they're in an English-speaking class or a Spanish-speaking class, or if they are at specials or wherever, Rob is consistent with them throughout the day to kind of manage and let teachers know, like, hey, this kid needs this a little bit. Hold on, I'll pull these guys, whatever. So those are some of our oceans projects. Next is the cultures, and please look at these outfits. Are they the cutest thing ever? So there were 5 countries that they studied. Can you pick out anybody from Egypt, or Japan, or Spain, or Brazil? What was the last one? Australia. So that was our expedition. We created an airport that they had to get a passport. They had to pick up their passport. They had to go into the airport. And then when they got into the airport, they had to choose which country. They listened to the spiel. They got a stamp. I rang the bell. They go to the next spiel. They get a stamp. They move on. So they got to visit 3 countries on their expedition night. Every semester, we end the semester with expedition night. And it's this huge, hey community, this is what we learned, and we want you to hear about it. So we do that in English and in Spanish, and it was so fun. The next pictures are along the way, the learning along the way. A BBK is one of our, the beginning parts of seeing what kids already know about these topics and kind of introducing some ideas. These are pictures that I pulled out of National Geographic, which is a fantastic tool for showing kids stuff they have definitely never seen before. I mean, their eyes are just like, this is not real. What are they doing? What are they wearing? I mean, so they wrote down just what they noticed and the questions they have, and it is just a wide-eyed time of there are people like this. So that was that. Then we have lots of experts come in. Ana Martin grew up in Spain, and so she's been coming to my class for a couple years, and the kids listen and pay attention for so long when it is somebody else talking to them. And so, yeah, Anna has come for a couple years, and I had her son in my class this year, which was very fun. So that's Anna. The next one is Mr. Jaime. He is an origami expert, and since we studied Japan, he's one of our counselors, and the boys love him. He has been an all-star on our staff. So when he mentioned, he's like, I could do origami with your kids. I was like, that sounds like a great, team building. Let's have fun together so that when you need to have other harder conversations, you can do those too. Like I said, I'm an artist. I went to school for art, and I love to paint with my kids. So these were Australian dot paintings. They do a variety of underlay, and then they do the dots on the top of it. So I do about 1 art project per country, and that was Australia. And this is inside a preschool classroom. Amy on the floor is a graduate from Doulos and now teaches preschool. And then I just want to show you, like, this is kind of our general outside of the buildings. That's the middle school classroom where Josiah and this here, Titus. I do not have any more elementary school students in my family. And that makes me kind of sad. But I now have 2 middle schoolers and a high schooler, and so that's generally what our buildings look like. This is our amphitheater, which is very much our center of kind of community stuff. This is where we come at the beginning of the day. We do prayer. We talk to our buddies. This is Abram and his buddy, Samara. And they just have a couple of minutes at the beginning of every day to make sure every kid is talked to and connected with. This is a high school classroom. This is Abram's English class, which Tim had the privilege of teaching this year because we did not have a high school English teacher. Plug, if you can please pray that the right middle school math teacher finds their way to our school. That is the one position we are missing for this year. We have some wonderful staff coming. We are bringing 9 additional North American staff on staff this coming year. But we need English. Is he now teaching math? There's a flexible fellow who's teaching math. Okay, so English it is, middle school English. Because Tim cannot teach another English class this year. He has other things to do. Okay, so anyway, this is his class. And then this is the land. So this is the big, beautiful land. You're looking out toward the city. The little white dots there are the main houses in the center of town. And the distance to the campus now is not too much further from our students than our current campus. It's really a 10, 15-minute zoop just on the other side of town. This is the 9th graders working on it, and so they went out to create some outdoor classrooms. And then this is just our beautiful view of our brand new mountain. So it is really untouched land that God only knows what is going to happen out there, but we are so, so, so excited for, just all of the miracles that are going to happen on that land. So if you'll continue to pray with us for the miracle of funding and building and just connections with all the right people, that's kind of our future spot. So to bring it back to the beginning, I know that a lot of you weren't here 42 years ago. Some of you were. But I know that being born here into this family was what normalized, but also like built in me a desire to know people all over the world and to love people all over the world, and to know that when I came back home, I was still loved and still known. And I hope that gives my kids confidence as they chase whatever they chase, that their home base is always their home base. And so thank you guys so much. Sure.
I'm going to ask the rest of the Stanley family to come. Where are you? Oh, yeah. Why don't you come on up here so we can see you in person? We also want to have an opportunity to pray for you as well. Like we said, Laura is homegrown. She is a child of Waite Park. The rest are not, but have various ties to Waite Park Church. And it's interesting because we were talking a little bit before, and she said,
Great.
Going to the Dominican Republic was not something that, it wasn't a dream of yours. It's not something that you made happen necessarily.
Yeah.
But you never know the ways, the stories that God weaves together to bring you to, where you end up in life. And the great thing was you were just open to God's call. And I think for all of us, whether it's being called to missions to Dominican Republic or some other place, or to some other thing that God is calling us to do, the primary posture that we all need to have is just being open and just being willing to listen to the voice of God and to committing to obeying whatever it is that He asks us to do. And this is something that Tim and Laura and you guys didn't have a whole lot of choice. I mean, maybe you got a little feedback or something like that, but you are along for the ride and are getting experiences as well, and hopefully learning to be able to hear the voice of God as well. And so we appreciate the work that you're doing in the Dominican Republic. We'll continue to support. And when you give to missions, you are supporting the Stanleys and others like them. And I'm sure if you would like to talk to the Stanleys afterwards and support them specifically as well, they would welcome that, I would guess. But we also just want to take the opportunity just to pray for them. We don't always have our missionaries right here in person with us, and so let's just take the opportunity to pray with them. If you would, just maybe extend your hand as if you are laying hands on them, and let's go ahead and pray for them. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the Stanleys and for the work that they're doing in the Dominican Republic. And thank you for the way that you are leading them, that you are guiding them. We thank you for just the fruit of this congregation focusing so much on reaching the world for Jesus and the impact that had on Laura. And I know that Tim has his own stories of that sort of thing as well. But I just pray that you would bless their ministry, that you would bless Doulos Discovery School in all of the plans, the goals that they have in the new campus. And I know that involves a lot of fundraising and just information and a lot of work. And so I just pray that all of that work would bear fruit and that your hand would be on it so that they can accomplish the goals of helping to educate kids, to introduce them to Jesus, to disciple them to maturity so that they can grow up to be leaders, most of them probably in the Dominican Republic, but maybe all around the world. And so we just thank you for their work and just pray your continued blessing on them. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate it.
You.
Yeah.